what I've been doing. Some of you know I've been worried about this issue for quite a few years. This year, in BC, we've had four, or we don't know everybody because of the confidentiality clauses. 4 to 6 coaches being taken to task. And the big issue is when you call the Canadian Coaches Swimming Association and bring them up to date, the first thing that Chris tells us, and I know Chris has got a lot of hands in a lot of parts, he just said you need to get a lawyer, and that's as far as it goes. So I kept thinking to myself, and I've spoke to quite a lot of coaches now, and some of them have been taken to task about what their scenario was without going down the confidential stuff. But getting to the point of, did you get any help from your PSO? And the answer is always no. It's always the same answer, get a lawyer. And also, did you get any support? And some of them did get support from their clubs, depending on the issue. Some of them didn't. But the legal cost by all the ones that had to pay out legal costs fell on the coach themselves. And 99% of the time, the coaches don't have any coverage for that. So I'd spoke to a few coaches. I thought we need to try and get this sorted prior to a new season, because more and more stuff is getting thrown at us. And I spoke to Mark Tremblay about the package that's come from Safe Sport. And in Safe Sport, it's now getting thicker than a Bible. And it includes everything, things that we would have never, ever, when we all first started, would have never thought that we could get sued for, taken to task for. And, even in my case this year, it was from another coach that made accusations. And I went all the way through the process and took a lot of time. I had to go and see a couple of lawyers. I was lucky that they helped me. And you get to the point of, but it's not really over. It's just, yes, I won the case and all this other stuff's going. And then I'm going, well, some of the other coaches paid out $40,000 going for this from similar issues where parents had taken them to task. And you go, well, who paid for that? And you go, I've had to pay for that. The majority of coaches don't have access to that type of funds. Some of them are just walking away from the sport, or some of them are going through the problem. But it doesn't just affect the coach. It affects the coach's families and relatives, and it also affects the club that you're in. So I did some checking, and I started with what insurance we have. And that was a question from the insurance people. And she's going, you need to know what insurance you have. And I wrote to Swim BC, and they said, basically, we don't give that information out. And I found that strange just in itself. You can imagine if you've taken house insurance out and your wife says, what are we covered for? Well, we don't know. We've only got the cover page of what they advertise. Yeah, but it doesn't include us. So that came back. That was a bit of a shock. And it was sort of, I could have put it down and said, no. And then I'm going, we need to know. And I spoke to Rod about this a few times, in that even if the coaches are not covered or don't have full coverage of insurance, we, as a responsibility, we need to tell, whether it's our assistants or whether it's our club or whether it's the governing body. And then I found out that across the provinces, some of the provinces have different insurance people, different insurance companies. Swim BC deals with Sport BC. I don't know who Alberta is covered with, but basically they have private insurance. They've gone out and got it themselves. Some provinces are covered by Swim Canada insurance, and nobody's ever seen the full package of what that's included. But I would think it is the bare minimum. And without going too much into depth, what I'm seeing for the last 5 or 10 years is that the PSOs don't, if there's an issue comes up, and this is just BC, and this is just from people I know, and we, at the last talk that we had other coaches come through and go, that was similar in their situation, or a friend or a peer. So we get to the point of going, what are we covered for? And she went through it a little bit, and I don't want to, because I'm not an expert, but when she said that we're not going to get anything from Swim BC, I started to look at different things. So we probably don't have personal liability insurance. We probably don't have insurance for sexual abuse or molestation. That's just accusations. That is not saying that, yes, they did something wrong or not. That's just covering. We don't have any insurance for legal advice. And it's like she said, if we get a cheap lawyer in Calgary, it's $300. If you want a good lawyer, it's $500. And that's how these guys got up between 10 and 40,000 very, very quickly. So we have no insurance. We don't have any insurance for us alleged assault or battery. That's a parent coming up and saying, he pushed me. We don't have, and she's never brought this up, we don't have any insurance for communicable disease. And that's one that's out there. You know, we all got through COVID and nobody came and said, you did everything wrong. But it was quite funny in that when she spoke about it, and I'd only read about this a few months ago, that we can also get sued, and I'll go with this other stuff later. We can also get sued for wrong advice, professional advice. So if we say, hey, I think you should do this or you do that, and it goes wrong, that in the olden days, right, the parents wouldn't come after us. But now we get to the point, okay, you recommended this college. Why did you not know that that college was going to get closed of their program? My kids lost this amount of money. I'm going to sue you for everything, right? So it's all those gray areas that we need to know, are we covered or not? I'm just going to say from a Swim BC's point, if we were covered, I don't think they would have a problem sending it out the full package. That's my own view. You know, like on my own insurance for my company and stuff, it's going, what am I covered for? I go, what else should I be covered for? And they'll come back and say that this would be a good one. That's good. And we know with insurance, like car insurance and everything else, it's just one of those things that we need for peace of mind, just in case something happens. Yes, I'm okay. Talking to the coaches that have been taken to task on silly little issues. I mean, really silly little issues. You go, and they had no insurance coverage. And I just feel at this time, we actually have to address the issue. We can't just keep putting our head in the sand and saying, no, I think we're covered, because we don't know if we're covered. I don't think there's anybody, probably Swim BC, the people in Swim BC. So that's where we're at the moment. You can go through and look at different insurance people. This lady that we got, like Mark said, she's quite knowledgeable. She's very, very knowledgeable, in fact. She deals with both professional teams and amateur teams. She deals with both clubs and individual athletes. And we need the best advice that we can get on this very, very tricky issue, because we're dealing with different kids now. We're definitely dealing with different parents. You all know that from being in the system. But now we need to find out, how much is it going to cost? What is the best way? What do we need coverage for? I think Mark's got some points. Maybe the national body should be covering some of this cost. I'll give you an example. In equestrian, and for those that don't know, but I know you know, in equestrian, these are the type of things they do. They cover all their national coaches. They cover all their coaches, every coach. in professional liability. They cover all their coaches in legal advice. Now, I'm wondering, that sounds very, very good. That's a good package. But I'm wondering if it comes national body versus the coach or national body versus the club, would they still pay the legal advice? Because then you're going, who do we pay for? Do we pay for this guy or do we pay for that guy? So, but they've taken a step forward. And when I was reading it this morning, I found it quite funny, because when we run about just giving kids advice about which meet they should go to, oh, they missed the qualifying, I'm going to take you, right? These guys can get sued. These guys can get sued. That horse that you told me to buy is not very good. I'm going to sue you. That horse that you told me to buy is sick and it's costing me a lot of money in vets. Why didn't you find out that information? So that's it on a different stage, but they're in the same boat as us. We're all professional coaches. And I think we have to go this way to raise the standard of coaches, raise the protection of coaches. Like one of the things she's offered or put on the table, I think, correct me if I was wrong there, Mark, $250,000 in legal advice coverage. Now, I look at that. I probably would never use $250,000, but I know in the back of my mind, if parents or other people knew that you had an armory of $250,000 sitting, and they come and say, I'm going to sue you, go, oh, it's okay. All right. I can afford a decent lawyer. But we can't go the opposite way, because once the action has happened, most people won't insure you. So I'm going to open that up to you guys, because you've taken the time out, and I know you're interested. Say, we have to talk about this. We have to talk sensibly about it. We don't have to be arguing about it. And I know some coaches have told me, I think my insurance of my wife covers. I would find that very hard to believe. I really would, unless you're in the same profession. I can't see a school teacher's insurance covering what we do. I just can't. It might make them feel better.
Yeah, I just think maybe like a once a month office hours that we could start, kicking this topic down the road. And I know there'll be a problem eventually if we want to get insurance like that she needs numbers. If she can't write a policy for 10 or 15 coaches, it has to be up there in the hundreds, if not, more than 1,000. So it's then it really matters to have a big pool of customers. I think that'll be eventually a difficult thing if we don't start getting some traction and momentum and awareness and knowledge out there.
That's something our associations would get involved if we were to bring it up. I know it would be just part of our fee, and that would be covered by the club, would it not? And because we're paying X number of dollars to get registered with with the Canadian Swim Coaches Association, X number of dollars goes towards Swim Ontario. Is this money just going towards covering the basic costs, and then if we want the insurance, then that fee goes up?
First issue is, lots of times Swim Canada, if we think about it in how it really is, every province has a PSO. Every province is really just another office of Swim Canada, right? They just swap across the things. So where the issues are coming up, this is just general. When the issues are coming up, a parent makes a complaint against a coach, goes to the PSO, goes to the provincial body, makes the complaint against the coach, and then Swim Canada and the PSO then go against the coach, saying that we are not members. Or they're both members. To me, they're both members. The parent's a member, the swimmer's a member, and the coach is a member. But the insurance in those cases doesn't go to the coach. Never. We cannot find a case in Canada ever where the coach has been fully supported by insurance from Swim Canada. Swim Canada just goes whichever way they think is going to go, and it's never gone to the coach. So that I agree. And Mark Trumley had this. Mark, correct me if I got it wrong. Mark Trumley had a comment about it. Maybe that it should be in that package. I agree. I'm going, if I've been paying 400 to 500 just for a membership, have I been paying another 200 to 300 for no insurance and just the membership?
The Canadian Swim Coaches Association is a separate entity, and that would, based on what you explained in terms of the PSO, I mean, we're probably not going to get anything out of the PSO other than the grievance. If we want protection, it's got to come through the Canadian Swim Coaches Association. That's our ultimate body that we sign up to be a part of. And yeah, I know they've only got Chris and one other person running the show, but maybe we need another person within the legal field that's within the Canadian Swim Coaches Association. I know us. I'm speaking of Ontario right now. When I was on the board of directors, we hired and had our own legal consultant, because at that time we were dealing with a coach that was banned from the pool deck, but obviously finding ways around to do that. And we just, as a governing body, we just found that it was good to have that person from the legal, like the lawyer, in our like on our payroll.
It lots of times I'm just finding that there's a conflict. There's a conflict of interest, right? Like Chris works for both Swim Canada and for the Coaches Association. So whether Chris has not told us there's no insurance, and basically that might be the case. And I think we have to ask that. I've already asked Chris, and Chris says the only insurance you guys have is with your PSO. And then when I go and ask the PSO says, Barry, we're not sending you all the information, right? You're not entitled to it. So basically I'm going, what am I insured for? And I don't mind somebody telling me we have no insurance, right? I really am. And it's sort of like, it's a reality check. I'd rather say, if somebody comes up to say to me, Barry, it's going to cost you $500 a year, I go, that's better than paying the lawyer 1 hour. I don't think we'll upset people. I think we just have to sit down and say, and we might have to take some blame for this. We never asked the right questions. We just assumed. We just assumed that if something happens, I've got support. I've got it. And from everyone I've spoke to this year in these 4 to 5 cases that we're dealing with in Swim, no help. And that, to me, that's really sad. You know, like I work with a great international coach, Harry Gallagher, and Gallagher used to say to me, when you go into a club, leave it better than when you got there. And I think as coaches, I'm getting to, I'm not quitting yet, but you getting to the end of your stuff. I'm still mentoring lots and lots of young coaches. I want it to be better for them than it was of what I've come through, because I can see the wave turning. I can see it's like a tidal wave coming against all coaches, not just in swimming. It's a tidal wave coming all the way across. And maybe that's something we have to look at. Can we bring in synchro coaches? Can we bring in water polo coaches? Can we bring in diving coaches? And diving might be a little different. Or can we expand it bigger? Can we bring in triathlon coaches? Because we're all in the same boat. It's just different issues. We have a big one because we're around water. We have a big one because, hey, you taught my kid this, and he went off and he did the wrong thing. You didn't give him the right advice. And, you know, And it's unbelievable when you look at that safe sport document now that I can be taken to task on so many things. Where at one time I go, whoa, that's not mine. That's the parents' issue. It's not mine. When parent can come back and say, you didn't tell my kid to take the right food at lunchtime. He didn't make the team. So now, and we would have never been in a situation before where parents would even have gone that way, because we were dealing with mainly working class that would try to deal it between you and them and the kids. Now we're dealing with people that are going, hey, my lawyer will be calling you in the morning, Barry. And that's reality. We all know that. But we actually have to go for the next group of young coaches coming through. Hey, we got a package here. Maybe some of them don't need all the parts. Maybe somebody we need at this level, we just need that. At this level, we need this. When we get to this higher level, where the risk and the opportunities to come back to us get bigger, then we actually have to say, when you get to that level, you'll need that coverage. I will guarantee that Swim Canada has insurance covering on all those issues for the national team coaches when they go away. And Mark, I know you've been on that. I hope it's that way. You can't do it on your own, because once you make that accusation, like I'll just go through my case just a little bit. But somebody made accusations, win the case, and I'm going, okay, what do I do to get my money back? Now, it didn't cost me anything, but let's put it in the case that the coach just cost $40,000. What's coming back from the Canadian Coaches Association? Well, he can go to small claims court if he wants to get any money back.
Right.
And you're going like, why? Somebody made false accusations. Your guys went through and ran the tribunal and says, no, there's no. And you're not going to slap his hand? Well, we don't want to slap their hand, because if they want to do it again, we want to give them that freedom to be able to do it again. And you're going, no, that shouldn't be the way it is. If we were in the real world and we made an accusation about somebody in our office or anything else, they'd look into it and one of us would get fired. That's the way it's gone. Or one of us would be told, take a whole bundle of courses and we're going to degrade you, right? Like at a different level of wages. That would happen 99% of the time. But we're in a situation, and I heard it from a lot of coaches. Yeah, but our job's different, Barry. Our job is no different than anybody that's professional. Our job is no different than a school teacher. Our risks are the same. Our goals are the same, to develop athletes and young people. But our risks are out there. We have to get to this point. If we're going to be truly professional, we actually have to have everything in place. And that's the only way we'll keep these young kids. I talk to young coaches now. Hey, Barry, I love doing it now, but I'm not going to do this as a career. Why would I? We know that. They're actually giving us that indication. They go, I don't want to give my weekends up. I don't want Mrs. Smith saying she's going to sue me or fire me, or like what Brian just said, is going to send me nasty letters at whatever time of the night she wants, right? So those are the issues that we have to look at, what's out there. And yeah, maybe I'll never need it between now and I retire. But I feel as a mentor and an educator, we actually have to say, we need to inform the young coaches about what could happen to them, right? And as I suppose as senior coaches, we go, well, we need to tell our assistants, you can't do that anymore, right? Well, what could happen?
I mean, as senior coaches, we need to mentor our younger coaches about what they can and cannot do. But we also need to inform ourselves of what also is out there, or a possibility for get help if needed. So I think I definitely agree that we need to keep on pursuing, finding out answers, what would be the right option. Me, I'm a firm believer that we should involve CSCA, but then you're talking also involving coaches from other sport, and maybe at some point somebody will have to talk to CAC, the Canadian Association of Coaches.
Yes.
Right? Because that's even bigger. All right.
Yes.
That covers people. Maybe that's also at some point where it might go. All right.
Yes, Mark, I totally agree with you. I think possibly that is the way to go, right?
Yeah.
because they already have multiple thousand of coaches under their umbrella.
But I know that they're supposed to be able to give you help if you need help from the law side, but I'm not sure what that help is. Right.
How do we support coaches? How do we move them forward? What role do we have to do? One of those things that I think should be added to provincial section clinics or national clinics, just like the lady that came in and said about burnout and stress last year in Calgary. 3 days she was on, 3 days I went to all of them. But then we need somebody covering this type of stuff and going, okay, first day we're going to cover that. No point putting it at the end, right? Because we need to be in those places where we have interaction between the provinces and interaction between levels of coaches, and saying, okay, why didn't nobody tell me I didn't have an insurance? Right? I'm sorry, I'm laughing. It's just sort of it's stressful in a sense. It's scary in a sense, and I know there's going to be some discussions, and we're going to need some people that have patience and don't don't like the great Oasis song, don't look back in anger. Just
I'll follow up with the see who I have to contact at the various agencies. So yeah, I'll do that. Well, I'll do the Ontario one then. I'll follow up with the Ontario one.
Contacting the Canadian one.
Oh, okay.
I've had talks with them before. I don't mind if they said there is no insurance for coaches. It'd be like, okay, we'll get on with it, right?
Right.
Do we add it to this package? Do you guys pay something? Why have you not told us that we weren't insured all these years, right? That might open a bundle of other issues, but that's not for us. That's their problem, right?
And you guys in Canada might have more government, but as soon as you decide to do something, then you could all do it, or everybody in the province will do it. And then if you go to a couple other sports, then it's going to be done. Whereas we're be scrapping and scraping to get every single one to, oh my gosh, so I think the numbers scare me, but I think you guys would all follow, and it could be an association thing.
Like Mark, that hit home. Mark's got a lot of young coaches working for him. And he's happy with certain things, but he knows they need to learn so much, and we do. But now we actually, in a sense, have to protect them in a way, right? We go, hey, no, I didn't tell him, and you should have told him, right? The question I get always back is that as a senior coach, I don't know, it's the same in the States, and as a senior coach, you should have known that, right? You should have known you had to bring yourself up to date on these issues. Right. You should have known that you should have spent some time with your young coaches when you saw them doing this and this, right? Yeah. We had to have a case about a couple of years ago where one of the coaches would letting all the kids write on his face. Whoa. Right? We're not the face painting stuff, right? It's about knowledge and stuff, and it's about sharing. And I haven't got my back up. I expected this. Right? As soon as I go, you're not getting any the full insurance package. I'm going, okay, you're not included in this full insurance package. It's fine, right? Would have been a dead easy one, right? Because then the question would have been, what am I paying for?